I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all guns. I love property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, I'll read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag.
So when we talk to our next guest, who I really enjoy our conversations, it's not just because, as of now, he is an analyst and has been talking about the importance of trade, industrial strategy, and preserving our investments, domestic and foreign. And as somebody who works for the coalition of ProsperousAmerica.org, it's a fantastic venue. But years and years ago, I used to read him in the Wall Street Journal, back when Obama was in his first term. He was writing then about Brazil, Russia, India, and China. Then he went to Forbes for a long time. And I'll tell you what, I love the perspective he brings, because he brings a perspective of success for our country. Kenneth Rapoza, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me back, Shaun. Appreciate it.
You know, we had a campaign happening in Chicago, in Illinois, and it was for governor primary. And there was a guy running who was a really smart guy. And he did this commercial, and I immediately thought of you. And the commercial, I want you to hear it.
Hi, Ted Nebraska here, running for Illinois governor. Right now I'm in Champaign at the University of Illinois campus. And one of the big issues here is that there's 6,000 Chinese foreign nationals at the school when there used to be only 37 back in 2000. And the big...
In 4 years... 4 years. So, and if this happened at the University of Illinois, this happened all around the country. And we saw as the Biden administration picked their favoritism, and it's always the favorite illegal alien, and then finances all of it. But when it comes to the Chinese, they don't even need our financing. They're financed from China, and they came through the border all clean with their new sneakers on and their little travel bags. I really would love to know how many are here right now.
Well, going to your point of what that guy said, I don't know who's running for governor against Pritzker. That's going to be quite the battle. It's probably $1 million to one.
Yeah, well, he lost to a guy who refused the debate who looks like Yogi Bear with his hat off, so it'll be another.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
I could tell you this much, though. There's been a lot of debate on Capitol Hill over the last month. I've attended a few of these hearings where they're talking about China investment in American colleges and Chinese students in American colleges, mostly at the PhD level. So he's probably talking about the undergraduate level, but they're mostly concerned with the PhD candidates, the guys who are working on, R&D projects, including some that might be funded by the Defense Department. So there is concern about that. And interestingly enough, it's a partisan issue. Really, the Democrats, they're not too keen on clamping down on China. They see this as xenophobic. They see it as targeting, the Chinese students, and there's a lot of headwind against trying to figure out what is China doing on American campuses. It's not something that you could easily do. Democrats don't really want to make it easy.
Well, Ken, come on. This is the beauty of growing up around shysters and bookmakers and thieves and gypsies. That's just what they're telling us, is that they ideologically have a problem with clamping down. I think it's more nefarious. I think they are all members of the Fourth Reich, the government supremacists, and they share the top-down government supremacy of China, of the Soviet Union, of the collectivist socialist nations in Central and South America. This isn't about freedom or fear of clamping down. This is about understanding what it takes to become government supremacists in a country that was set up on freedom and the citizen. You have to first implode it. It's Cloward and Piven 2.0, isn't it?
Oh, yes, I'm sure that's part of it. But I can tell you this. When you hear them speak, and they all speak in unison on this, it's really interesting within the party, is that they basically will say that if we do not have And again, these hearings are just strictly about Chinese. They're not about Indians or not about Russians or it's strictly focused on Chinese. And they will argue that if we don't have these Chinese doctorate degree students, or you don't have these undergrads, it's over basically for R&D in the United States. It's over for science in the United States. If you have this is a very strongly held view, and they push back against it. It's very interesting to watch, and how you have to admire how across the party they all say the same thing. Absolutely. It's racist, it's diversity, and it's science, and you got to just leave things the way they are. Otherwise, you're a racist, you're against diversity, and you're against science.
So the beauty of what I think Trump represents in his last victory specifically is that I do not believe any of the information that comes out of the Iranian state-sponsored media known as our American media. I don't believe it. I really don't. And I think the vast majority of Americans immediately want this to stop, and that's why the support of Donald Trump and the policies. So whether they need that support of the people to overtake the government, I'm also very aware that the Bolsheviks made up, 13% of Russia before it became the Soviet Union? So in very strategic places, it could be very bad. But when it comes to this topic of science, I think that what we have on our side is not just a coincidence, but the reality of the predictions of the communist drama queens, of climate change, of the vaccine, of even COVID. I think that cat is out of the bag, and nobody gives a rip about what they say anymore. I think they've lost all credibility. That and the incredible timing of AI in everybody's palm. You don't need these people anymore. AI, Grok, and different venues. There's a tremendous plethora of AI. They have the answer. I don't need one of these guys anymore for anything. What do you think?
Well, I want to highlight something that you said. You mentioned the word communist, and it's a word that a lot of people get turned off on that word. They go, "Oh, this is so," because most of us have moved beyond the mythos of World War II, where everybody is a Nazi and everybody's a communist and everybody is a fascist. We're beyond that. But if you look at what happened this last weekend with the No Kings rally, they're back at it again. What's the flag that they're waving?
Hammer
in
and
New
sickle.
York City. Hammer and sickle. So, and these aren't necessarily 70-year-old boomers that wanted to be part of the Communist Party back during the Cold War. Some of these are, this is Antifa. That's what Antifa was. Antifa was a communist activist group from 1930s, 1940s Europe, and they're here. They're still there. You were talking about the Bolsheviks. So if you're going to repeat history, those people waving the flags, that's the 13% that you were talking about earlier. That's them right there. So, it's too bad that in the West, Europe and the United States included, of course, that we're still living with this ghost of World War II and how we frame everything. And at the same time, despite the fact that a lot of us want to move on from that, our political enemies, certainly the political enemies of Shaun Thompson,
yes,
they're waving the communist flag, and they're not beyond it. They are it. They want to bring it back. They want to bring you back to the old battles of the 30s and 40s of Europe.
So I'm going to ask you a question because I've observed something and I'm curious to know your thoughts on it because I know how much work you put into working and business and manufacturing and what is called a middle class, but really it's just the earners. The difference now versus the difference in Europe when the Nazis took over versus the difference in Russia when the Soviets took over and everything in the South America. The difference now is who makes up the American Communist Party? Are the intellectuals in the same way they did in Europe and Russia, but they are missing a key component to their army. They're missing the worker. These people that you see in New York, in Chicago, and California, these aren't workers. Antifa are not workers. And delivering packages on bicycles in New York doesn't make you a worker. They're missing the carpenters. They're missing the bricklayers. They're missing the cement workers. They're missing the people, the electricians. Because in this country, that's who's still working. That's who's still paying taxes. And ironically, those industries, including truck drivers, that's the industry that's being repopulated under Trump. They cannot have a successful communist movement without the workers, because that is always what has been in Europe and the Soviet Union and Central and South America. And you cannot count teachers as workers. They don't work, and in Chicago, they can't succeed. When you look at what these teachers are, there's no wonder only 18% of the kids can read. I think even less percent in the teachers can read. So I think they're missing the components that destroyed these other nations throughout history. What do you think?
Well, that's a great point, and they are missing that component. So what it is now is it's just basically the bureaucracy, or as Michael Lind puts it in his book, The New Class War, it's the managerial elite, right? That's the core of the communist, let's say, intelligentsia of the 21st century, right? They're the ones who are going to manage from the top down. They're going to tell you how to live and tell you what to eat and tell you, where you can work and why you can't do this and can't do that. That's not going to be something that they can rely on Joe the plumber for. I mean, I'm sure there are. I know you. I'm sure you're on social media, so you see that there are plenty of Joe the plumbers out there. I remember this guy. There used to be this guy on Twitter, and X used to call himself Brooklyn Dad or whatever, and he lives with Brooklyn Dad.
Oh yes, I did see Brooklyn
guy,
Dad.
A common guy from Brooklyn, but yet he was out there for Kamala Harris and
well, it turned out he was like
a common man.
He was a government recipient of cheese, if I remember correctly. I thought he was on the Ghetto Lotto. Wasn't he a disability guy?
Maybe. I don't know. I try not to pay too much attention to guys like that.
Well,
he's a Brooklyn Dad and he talks, and that's about it.
That is their army, right? The welfare people. Now, here's the other thing, though, that's happening. I think even the people who are on welfare, and they may not be complete scumbags, they are offended at the money that is stolen in the welfare system. And when you look at the scandal in what is called Minnesota, you realize it's not a scandal. It's a business plan. And it's the same thing in California, the same thing in Maine, the same thing in New York, same thing in Illinois and Philly and the rest of it. This is an opportunity to get that information out. Never before has there been so many outlets that are willing to talk about the truth the way it exists. These social safety nets are fraudulent. And I was noticing in all these King's marches, all these older communists and all these older socialists, these are the people that knew full well that Medicare, back in when you started writing at the Wall Street Journal, what was that, 2011? That's
about that.
That's the first year that it came out that we were getting robbed in Medicare for $100 billion a year. Remember when that was a scandal? And all the money that they knew it was getting robbed, just like they knew Social Security didn't exist. It was a Ponzi scheme that 36% of people die before they ever collect it, and yet they still wanted in on it. So it's interesting to see, I think with the willingness and the fact of failure and corruption in the system, we have the better chance of breaking it now than at any time in American history.
Yeah, and I'll say this, though, Shaun. I agree with you that we do have a good chance of breaking it, and you have J.D. Vance now who is in charge of it, and he wants to save his political career, obviously, right? And this is a good way for him to do that. And you have young male reporters who are, I don't know what the generation is, but under 30, right, who started all this, right? Nick Shirley is the guy who basically did all of this. He got the ball rolling. You got legacy media like CBS now going after it, knocking on doors in California and doing reporting. So, the people who are the average Joe boomer who is at the No Kings rally, they can see it because clearly they're not getting it from Nick Shirley on X. But the thing that we want to see, all your listeners want to see, is it's enough for me. It's one thing for us to know about it. I want to see people want to, your listeners and myself want to see people go to jail.
Absolutely.
Where's the accountability? Who gets punished for it? I think we saw some of it in Minnesota. But if you don't see the accountability, then I think it's really disheartening for Americans. And that's when they really see that, I see the problem. I've gone after the problem. And that's when people really start to feel hopeless. And I hope that someone like J.D. Vance, who's taking this by the horns now, he's in charge of it, that I hope he does something with it, because it'll be really bad, not only for his political career, but also for us, Americans, who you look at something and you say, this is not right. Everybody knows it's not right, and nothing gets done. And it's just one more nail in the coffin for American democracy, whereas you say, I elected these people to do something. Here's what I'm asking them to do. And they consistently don't do it.
Well, I'm going to Norman Vincent Peale you right now. I'm going to tell you the beauty in this. When you see in Minnesota those 3 wood softeners, those pictures of Viagra, those 3 female judges that overturned guilty verdicts. Did you see these 3 horses? Did you see them?
No, please.
Oh, my God. 3 different female communist judges.
Of course.
Okay? The jury comes back guilty, stole the million. All 3 different overturned the verdict. Now the people who work hard, who raise their kids, the ones who tell everybody right from wrong, they see this. Now what's happening is what never happened up until now. And you see it in New York, and you see it in California, and you see it in Illinois. The people are realizing these entire areas are so systemically violated and corrupt that even the judges are in on the scam. Then they do what needed to be done to set the tone. They migrate. Secession by foot. Now, I understand it's a big process, right? I've got it in my own family. Love and affection in your sphere. People get older. They're more afraid to leave. But when you see people openly in businesses in Oregon and Washington State and California, legacy businesses, I'm out. And they start to leave, and the billionaire tax, and they start talking more communists in New York. Tax the rich. It's the move in Chicago. Tax the rich. Well, the rich are they can afford to get the hell out of there before you start taking their stuff. Maybe that's what needed to happen, the cleansing. What do you think?
Well, okay, I've given this some thought, actually, so good question. I will tell you this. I love the idea. I'm from Massachusetts, so we're one of the states where people are moving out of. I think California, number one. I can't think of who number two is. New York and Massachusetts, I think, are the top three. Maybe one
Illinois.
State. Might be another one. Illinois, I'm within the top five.
Right.
But what I don't want to see is that when they move to Texas and Florida or the Carolinas, that they turn those places into blue states.
Well,
if you got hundreds of thousands of people from California all moving to Texas and Idaho, look, you got people in Idaho who are Republicans and for some reason can't even pass the SAVE Act.
I'll tell you why I don't think that is. If you have the gumption, the understanding and the wherewithal to make your money, and then understand you're not going to accept have it taken away from you because you're an honest person, and you move, you're that gem in a blue area. You're me. You're you. You're people who understand the problem because, after all, you went through the inconvenience. Everybody thinks it's easy. Oh, it's easy. No, it's not. Fight, argue. You got to start businesses over. It's not easy. But if you have the wherewithal to do it, now you're exactly who I want as a neighbor. I think that's what's, and I say that to you because I used to own a cigar store, and now I go to a cigar store, okay? And I go to a cigar store, and where I live in Naples, and they're all guys from our neighborhoods. I got New Yorkers, I got Boston, I got Connecticut, Maine, California, got guys from California, Illinois, and we're all the same. And this is the beauty. The people who have the energy and want to go through because they understand what the consequences are if they don't, to migrate and move their family, those are the ones that'll always be red. I really believe that.
I hope you're right. I'm just picturing the guy from Starbucks, whatever his name is, and the CEO, and the Starbucks CEO, and Zuckerberg from Meta, moving to Florida and just holding parties, donor parties for the Democrat that's going to take out the Republican. I could just see it. So I hope I'm wrong. But I hope there's more, friends of Shaun that are going to these places instead. But I really see that if you keep having thousands upon thousands of Californians leaving for Idaho or from Texas or, then eventually that changes. And,
Howard Schultz.
I don't know when we'll see it.
Howard Schultz is who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Do you know, Kenneth, I've played him on my show when he talks to the communist senators, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and how they cut him off. You know what he did? You'll feel so much better about him and the fact that he moved if you watch that. He explains the benefit of him and his idea and his success and the millionaires it made, not just of the employees, but of the investors. What the difference now between when Barack Obama, when no one believed who he was, with the Che Guevara picture in his campaign headquarters, now it's undeniable. These are American Soviets. These are American communists. And when he makes the argument of, we're the country that made all of the people with a higher quality of life because we gave you the opportunity to invest in our companies. No other country did that. We're the first to ever do that. So I think he ran for office too, and they cut the legs out from under him. I think that guy, a convert from the Democrat mafia to the right side of things, can really shock the world. After all, that's what Reagan was. That's what Trump was. So I think there's a lot of optimism in what's going on. Come on now. I'm going to get you to be cheery.
All right. Let's leave on a good note. I didn't know that about Howard. I thought he was a Democrat, still a Democrat. Hey, and maybe he is. Maybe he's a Tulsi Gabbard or an RFK Democrat. I don't know. But
I'll take them all day long.
I'll take your word for it.
Well, listen, the Coalition for a Prosperous America can be found at prosperousamerica.org. That's where I see all your articles. I still keep an eye on it. I love what you do, and I love the fact you keep making time for me. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a good night.
You too. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
He's Shaun Thompson.
Hello, Mr. Thompson.
And this is the Shaun Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.
All right, Vito, you best be letting me in and having a look around.
Officer Murphy, hello. Yeah, this is Vito's vault. We're